Some pupils in the Eastern Cape have been left stranded without feeding. According to the Department of Education in the province, the daily budget for meals at primary and secondary school level is R3.05 and R3.65 respectively. Some of the schools say the allocated amount is not enough to feed the children. National School Nutrition Program Director Verona Witbooi joins us now for more on this. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your time this afternoon. Perhaps set the scene for us and give us a little bit of context in terms of what's going on.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for making time to meet with us. Just a small correction, it's Verona Witbooi from the Provincial Department. So just to give you a little bit of background in terms of the National School Nutrition Program, what we do annually, starting in June of each year, we have a business planning process which we consolidate the learner numbers, and each year there is an inflationary increase which is provided for in the conditional grant framework for the NSNP program. And that increase sits at 5% currently year on year, with the provision of learner enrollment together with the unit cost per learner is then included. I just wanted to add just another small bit of information there, is that we do take cognizance of the context within the province, and we have quite a large number of schools in our more remote recesses of the province, and therefore we have accommodated that as well. They are fed at a higher feeding rate than learners who are in an urban settlement. And so for these types of learners in those types of schools, which are the low enrollment schools with an enrollment of less than 50 learners, we have a feeding rate currently of R7.35 per learner. But this is not all the funding that goes to schools. There is additional funding which is also made provision for, one of it being the stipends or the honorarium which we pay to the volunteer food handlers, and also an allocation of gas as per the sliding scale for the school enrollment. So this has an impact also on the total costs that are transferred.
Just how many pupils are we talking about that fall under the program?
So currently at the moment with our business planning figures, we started off in June 2022 with a total enrollment for our learners sitting at 1,628,811 learners. And these learners numbers, they vary quarter on quarter. So for quarter 1, 2 and 3, we draw our data for learners from the EMIS data information management system of the department. It is a requirement by law that we are only allowed to fund actual enrolled learners so that we can trace the support given. With saying that, let me give you the data for the first 3 quarters of the financial year. As you might be aware, we are now going into the final academic term, but it is also the financial third quarter expenditure. So our learner numbers are varied from 1.608 million in quarter 1 to 1.359 million in quarter 2 and 1.603 million for the next tranche, which should be disbursed or sent out from the department into the individual schools by the 10th of October. So all schools would have received their funding for that period within the next few days. And that includes the rural and urban split? All of them. So we in this province, we feed all learners that are in quintile 1 to 3 public ordinary schools. We also feed learners that are in the targeted special schools. We make a provision for them. And then one of the things, the strategic programs that the department actually included for this financial year was the expansion of our breakfast program. There's been quite a lot of research done by organizations such as UNICEF that have done quite a bit of studies on poverty and the poverty indices within this province. And when they came to present this information to us in last year, we had increased our learner data, so the learner numbers benefiting from breakfast from 359,000 to just over 1 million learners. And within this financial year, we had made the decision as a department to actually expand that further and also include all learners in our combined schools.
What is your understanding of the problem that is faced by some of the learners and teachers? Reports are abound that you've got children, I'm sure you're aware of the complexities faced by some households in South Africa where you find child-headed households where children head to school for miles and miles on end on foot. And when they get there, there's no food. They probably left home with no food. And so what is your understanding of the problems that have been presented by the schools and the children?
So definitely we do take into cognizance that these are the current contextual factors. I mean, if you look at the Eastern Cape in and of itself, it is one of the more rural provinces, and it's one of the provinces that is mostly afflicted by unemployment, and also because it's such a vast province, the rurality of this province also plays a direct role into the accessibility of food and thereby securing food and nutrition security for learners. And like I said, one of the activities that we undertook as a province in the current financial year to bring some relief and support to teaching and learning in the schools is the provision of breakfast. I think the Eastern Cape has been one of the biggest provinces to expand so rapidly from the phasing in of the strategic program for breakfast from the primary school cohort. So we've increased that, like I said, to just over 1 million learners. So it's 1,027,000 learners actually. And we had expanded that even beyond in the very same financial year to include our secondary school learners in combined schools. So this means that the department had originally planned to set aside approximately 119 million rand just for the provision of breakfast to our learners to provide them with an additional meal. And more so, now we have exceeded that target and our expenditure within the grant to ensure that we include the other children as well. It's a myriad of different factors that have an impact. But one of the things I'd like to share with you as part of the Eastern Cape anti-poverty strategy, which is a mandate officiated by Office of the Premier, is that we come together on a quarterly basis as the sister departments, health, social development and education, and we work at improving food and nutrition security through different methods of delivery. So it might also be useful to bring into this type of conversation the contribution of the nutrition centers that are managed by both Department of Health and also Department of Social Development, and the relief that is offered to our learners who are part of an actual community. They are not just in school, they also have a community that they form part of where they are prioritized, especially those who are vulnerable, orphans, child-headed homes, living in a condition that doesn't support their nutrition security and their food security. So it is not a once-off fix. But really, I think in the current financial year, the department has really accelerated its performance in trying to provide food security through a nutritious breakfast. But also, what we are trying to do in the coming financial year is actually to ensure that even the balance of about 780 secondary school learners can also be brought onto the program. So what we are envisioning for the 24-25 financial year is to have the commitment and the support to enable us to feed all learners 2 meals per day. The main meal, which is a balanced meal, as well as the breakfast meal, which is an additional food security practice, but also enhances teaching and learning, because that is the goal of the program.
I do wonder, in some of the plans for food security, does it include sustaining some of these children beyond school, right? So there are some schools who have maybe a small little or a humble food garden, but perhaps also equipping some of the learners with seeds, agriculture. I don't know if it's a subject in the Eastern Cape, which is rich also in fertile land, where these children can then go home and those skills that they learn at school, they can be imparted at home, where they've also got something to do, whether it's over the weekend or the holidays, by tending to their gardens and knowing the reason or the importance of the land.
Yes, definitely. One of the legs of the National School Nutrition Program actually incorporates nutrition education and advocacy. So part of that is teaching the learner where the actual food comes from. And also part of the program monitoring includes sustainable food gardens. I'm not sure if you're aware, but a few years back we were really struggling in some areas of the province with accessibility to water because of the drought. And what we've done is we've tried to incorporate at a district level, and we've got some districts that are doing excellently more towards the cluster A area, which is your Ouer Tambo Inland, Ouer Tambo Coastal, Amatole. Those areas, they actually have really good collaborations with the Department of Agriculture, who sends the extension officers to come in. They provide them with training, they provide them with implements, they provide them with seedlings and seeds, and help them to establish the food gardens at the schools. And what is great about this program that they implement with the local support of the Department of Agriculture, with the local support of COGTA, is they are then able to also identify vulnerable learners and also put some of those produce, the vegetables, back into the meal to enhance it, both nutritionally but also from a macronutrient perspective, meaning the learner gets a bigger plate of food to support their nutrition and food security.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am, for availing yourself this afternoon. Verona Witbooi is the Director of National School Nutrition Program at the Eastern Cape Education Department.